Our generation is very, very fearless. We are able to see issues that have stayed a certain way for years, and we're able to question them and say, it doesn't have to be this way.
While millennials want a seat at the table, Generation Z wants to flip the table.
Young people have always been a force for change. They're envisioning the future constantly, a different future than that future of their parents or their grandparents.
Social media has given us a real platform that enables us to have power and have say and change the world.
What brands have to learn now is that power has to be shared with the consumer, and it's non-negotiable.
I think that there is more potential for Generation Z to make change, and I think that is purely from the tools we have on our hand. I'm the founder and executive director of an organization called Period, the Menstrual Movement, which I started when I was 16. I always get the question of how did you know to start a nonprofit? And my honest answer is I just Googled it.
It's not a news story, but the difference now is that young people have a megaphone in the form of the internet, and so they can marshal their resources so much more quickly.
I'm 17. I'm the creative director of a group called US Youth Climate Strike. It's part of the global climate strike movement, which is pretty much a grassroots movement speaking truth to power. A lot of adults kind of be like, oh, you're always on your phone. I literally have learned my creative skills entirely from YouTube, and I do graphic design, I do videography, animation. I can create a whole powerful social media campaign, and I did, and literally got the attention of 16 presidential candidates and got them to sign on to our idea.
The internet empowers them. It puts them in positions a lot of times where they have marketable skills that they don't need to then ask permission from all the adults in their life to go accomplish something or to go have an impact.
But also, to be an empowered person in this generation does take a certain amount of privilege. It is a person who has access to technology and can pay for an unlimited phone plan and be on social media whenever they want to.
Representation for a younger generation is essential. The cliched phrase is that you cannot be what you cannot see. They see someone who has a similar background, who perhaps looks like them, and when they see that person, they recognize that some of the limits that they thought were in place are indeed surmountable.
Being able to see leaders like Ocasio-Cortez showing that she's sort of navigating being a part of Congress, but she's speaking out every day.
This is about all of our communities.
Seeing teenagers who were just like me speak to issues that matter so much to them, and I thought, what's stopping me from doing this? Nothing. I really had no excuses.
I'm the executive director and founder of She Writes Woman. I knew that I needed to start this organization that will be a voice for people who had mental health conditions. Collective power is how you can, as a collective, not physically be in the same space, but you can pull your power together. You can start a Twitter campaign, a hashtag trend, and then you use that hashtag to mobilize offline across different countries and different regions, and then you influence something on a bigger scale.
In the early days of the Black Lives Matter movement, people pointed out that the movement had no leader. And some of the responses that you would get was that it wasn't a leader-less movement, it was a leader-full movement. And I think that's the beauty of leader-full movements.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say?
They are responsive and flexible, and they're able to respond to the demands of the day a lot faster.
Change can start with yourself.
You can create a groundswell and direct that swarm towards positive change. On the other hand, everything is a double-edged sword to some extent.
We're having growing pains. How do we sort of get through this culture where everybody's exposed all the time? We have to get past this phase where you are held to account for everything you've ever said. We can't just cancel someone because one time they said one thing that we didn't agree with.
I would define cancel culture as something bad or controversial surfaces of what someone might have said or have done or who they might have partnered with, and suddenly a collective mass amount of people will cancel them, right? Be I don't support, I don't follow, I will unfollow, and I will actively speak out against.
Cancel culture isn't something that's necessarily threatening, it's a matter of accountability. Saying I'm no longer going to give you my attention, perhaps my money, or my time. Those are the resources that most individual, everyday people have the most access to.
The swarm can also move very quickly with not very much information based on what they read or hear on social media.
There is a demand to see injustice righted immediately, but as we know from history, justice has a very long moral arc. By acknowledging what's at fault, acknowledging what your remedy is going to be, and being earnest and open and honest about how you're going to address the ill, I think that cancel culture is survivable.
I mean, I think one of the beautiful things about how young people are embracing power is that everything is in beta. That idea of admitting that you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to do it anyways.
Power is slowly shifting down naturally to the grassroots, and it's becoming much easier to create change.
I'm a campaigner from London who works in LGBTQ+ rights, mental health and disability. I wanted to talk about LGBT stuff, so I made a series. If I've got the opportunity, the tools are there and I can do it, of course I'm gonna do it. I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm gonna talk about the things that I want.
We're seeing power shift from the old institutions that we're used to and directly into the hands of the people.
Fight for your lives before it's someone else's job.
One of the big doors that this generation growing up on the internet opens is the ability to express yourself in a way that previous generations have felt very inhibited to do.
When the system is not going to allow me in, I'm just going to create my own system and telling them, like, this is what we want, like, do it or get out.
Change has always come from outside and inside. And you have agitators outside of the system, outside of government, taking to the streets and demonstrating what culture wants and where culture is going.
Transparency is hugely, hugely important because we as consumers want to know more about your company and want to know who is supporting it.
There is a genuine problem. We call it like performative activism. We say like cloutivism, where people do their activism to kind of like garner an audience and not much more. That's something that like a lot of people have disdain for.
Generation Z has higher brand loyalty than any other generation. If we can push brands to not just talk about things, but act on them, if I can get a P&G to use the term menstruators in a tweet, I think that's really how we can make a difference.
We don't stand for tokenism. If you say gender equality and that's what you stand for, then don't do anything contradictory. Don't just do it because, yeah, you're gonna get some hype and, you know, sales are gonna go up, because we will sniff it out. And once you lose us in that way, then it's hard to get us back.
Whatever it is you want to stand for, you better get your ducks in a row. That's more important than going out and doing an ad campaign, because if you don't walk the walk, you will get called out.
We get a lot of flack as young people. We're constantly underestimated in how much we do know and how much actually we care.
We can pull together and say, you know what? This doesn't work for us. This is what we want the new normal to be.
As you have the sunsetting of one generation and the next one comes of age, there is a tremendous moment of creative power. It has to be seized, and this generation believes that they can do that.